I, 22 female, have an older brother John, 32, who has been with his fiancée Jane, 30 female, for 4 years. They have an infant. Jane found out she was pregnant at only a few weeks and immediately called my mom to tell her. Mom was confused but still very excited. Jane said she would tell John when he returned from his work trip. A few hours later, she called again, sobbing, saying she had insatiable cravings. Mom joked, "Isn't it a bit early for cravings?" And Jane went off on her. She started yelling about how this was her pregnancy and no one else's. It was an odd reaction. She also apologized for her outburst by blaming it on hormones. When my brother returned from his trip, he and Jane left to stay at her mother's and we didn't see her until after the baby was born. John said this was because Jane was afraid of losing the pregnancy and wanted to be with her mom, and we needed to respect boundaries. Whenever someone asked about Jane or the baby, they shut it down with vague answers like, "Every pregnancy is different," or "She's carrying small, which isn't unusual." They barely shared anything about the pregnancy. There were no ultrasound pictures, no baby shower, and Jane didn't want anyone around during the delivery. I also discovered that every craving she listed came from one article about pregnancy cravings. She even listed multiple items in the same order as the article. When the baby was born, we were finally allowed to see Jane and John, and the baby, of course. It was very bittersweet as we all wish we could have been there for Jane to help, but Jane and John both assured us that we did help by staying away during the pregnancy. The weirdest part, though, is how Jane describes the birth. She claims she had an epidural via IV drip into her hand, edited because I didn't elaborate, which is not how those are administered. When I asked clarifying questions, thinking she'd gotten confused, which is understandable, she shut down and refused to answer, as she would during the pregnancy. She said the baby had latching issues because he was born with no umbilical cord stump. This can technically happen, but it's a rare and fatal medical condition that their baby does not have. The final straw was when she told us that the baby basically fell out of her within an hour of being in labour, despite my brother telling us how hard the birth was, and even stated that was why they weren't going to try for any more kids. Mom is on the same side as me and has been noting these inconsistencies and inaccuracies but doesn't know how to bring them up. And their reactions don't help. A few days ago, my brother texted Mom saying her doubt of Jane is disrespectful, and they both want full apologies from both of us for bullying Jane about her pregnancy or labour. I haven't made any outright accusations about it or said any of this to Jane. I've only asked questions when she brings up the birth or pregnancy. Am I the idiot for having doubts and gossiping with my mom about my brother's fiancée potentially lying about giving birth? Edit, their stories change. One day the labour was a grueling touch and go 24 hours, and the next day it was, "He just slipped out, I didn't even feel it." The labour was an hour or two max. One day it's, "I had an epidural given via IV drip in my hand," and the next it's, "It was so quick and easy I didn't need any pain meds." One day it's, "He was born without an umbilical cord stump so he doesn't latch easily," and the next it's, "He was born 100% healthy." Everything about it changes daily while my brother and sister-in-law try to insist there's nothing weird going on, and anyone who merely questions these changes is a gossip bully. I'm trying to be nice here and not simply imply ill intent, but when they jump down your throat for asking how much the baby weighed, it's hard not to. Why do you feel you need to bring it up at all? Yes, she may well be misremembering medical details and/or exaggerating, but it doesn't sound as though any of the things she said are dangerous. Pain, hormones, and medication can all screw with your perception, not to mention things such as short-term memory. If her perception is that the birth was quick, that may well be subjectively true. Remember that she may not be a reliable narrator, particularly in medical matters, but other than that, just enjoy your nibbling. This is not a situation where you need to prove her wrong or set her right, and you are the idiot if you continue to gossip. Honestly, I can see why they didn't want to share any aspect of the pregnancy with OP. I wouldn't either. OP is being judgmental and anything they do will be twisted to make them seem like villains. OP is missing some pretty big warning signs that their brother is absolutely done with their crap, and if they're not careful, low or no contact could be in their future. A lot of things don't add up, which raises valid concerns. If there is something else going on, it's better to know the truth. Keeping such secrets can harm relationships in the long run. Not the idiot for questioning her pregnancy, given their cagey answers. Is it possible that she has fertility issues they didn't want to discuss and they adopted? The fact of the matter is, it has absolutely nothing to do with OP. It's not her baby or marriage. If she's lied, likely for a reason. Digging and investigating will only harm any future relationship with her brother, sister-in-law, and nibbling. You are the idiot. Sounds like they adopted a baby but are too scared to tell you, but not afraid to tell her side of the family because you might judge them. Welcome the baby and stop being nosy. It's really none of your business. I joined a women's social club 6 months ago because I've been struggling to make friends after relocating to a new-to-me city. It took a while to warm up to the group and connect with people I had anything in common with. I had to wade through a lot of Botox parties and boozy brunches to find things I was interested in, but I did, and I started coming to group events fairly often. I hang out most often with the women who like to read, do crafty things, bake, skywatch, etc. Among these women is one, I'll call her Andrea, who has commented on how she's a total klepto. I think she makes these comments to seem cool to the other people in the group. I reached out to some of the women I see regularly at these events and invited them over to my place to watch a TV show we've been talking about and do crafty stuff. They were excited and agreed to come. Unfortunately, Andrea found out. I assume someone asked if she was going and asked me if she was invited. I considered this for a bit and then told her no, as I only had so much room at home. She didn't believe me and asked for the real reason, saying, I thought we got along, which, yes, is true. I told her I'm not comfortable inviting a kleptomaniac into my home. I've worked hard to have the things I have, and it would be stupid for me to invite her knowing that she openly brags about it. She said, okay, very quietly. She then said, you're painting me out to be some horrible criminal when you don't even know anything about me. I said that her being proud to call herself a klepto was all I needed to know. She said that I was a high school mean girl and ableist. I'm unsure what the foundation for that statement is. This, unfortunately, has spilled over to the group, which is frustrating. But what surprised me the most was that there were so many people defending her and telling me that I was out of touch and took things too literally. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Being a thief isn't the same as being a kleptomaniac or a klepto. One of the key factors in diagnosing kleptomania, which is a rare mental health disorder, is the roller coaster of emotions about the theft. A kleptomaniac will not tell virtual strangers that they've stolen because the shame is physically painful to them. Andrea is the ableist for rebranding kleptomania to justify her poor behavior. She's trying to be edgy and quirky. She didn't figure it would bite her in the behind. Well, now it did. You can't say outlandish things to get a reaction and then complain when the reaction isn't what you wanted. Those defending her are more than welcome to have Klepto Andy in their houses. I'd say no too. She isn't entitled to an invite to your home, no matter her circumstances. I had a girl in my sorority describe herself as a self-diagnosed klepto, and that if she saw something she liked, she just couldn't help herself, be it something at a store, on campus, or in possession of one of us. After she took it, it became her property, and heaven forbid you try to get your things back. I refused to associate with her outside of meetings. I never hung out with her, let her in my car or dorm room, and never let her near my purse or jacket in group settings. She cried that I was a bully. People like them are always going to play the victim. I'm very glad you're keeping your boundaries. I split up with my ex almost 2 years ago. My child started school the same year. My ex was never too involved in our child's educational needs, even when she was a toddler. I handled it all myself. My child's school offers multiple apps and websites. You can be up to date with everything without ever having to contact anyone. I repeatedly asked my guest to get at least the main app so I don't have to keep reminding him of important dates in our child's progress. He didn't care. Just a few examples. Whenever I asked to make a plan for any school break, he'd ask when the school break was. I sent him links to the school website, but he couldn't even be bothered to take a screenshot or make notes of the dates, etc., so he'd ask again next time around too. He couldn't be bothered to update his phone number in the school records, so the office couldn't contact him during an emergency. I informed him about all parent-teacher meetings. He said he couldn't make it and that it made sense for me to go because he didn't know the teachers, even in September when neither of us knew the new teachers. Side note, he doesn't work. I do, so I thought it was logical to have him attend, so I wouldn't have to take time off work to do so. I'd sent him any important dates, school plays, any shows, sports events, etc., and he'd pick and choose the ones not involving much interaction. Reading together on World Book Day was a no-go, but watching the kids race was okay, etc. I'd even invite him to events organised by any clubs my kid is in, clubs I organised and paid for myself. But he always had an excuse unless the events fell on his weekends. Even then, he'd sometimes ask me to swap the weekends. I accepted it for over a year for the sake of peace. I wanted my kid to see her dad support her achievements too. But it's been so long and I'm just tired of having to handle the responsibility and remember to give him updates about it. It also felt like I was trying to get him involved when he clearly wasn't interested. So, last autumn, I announced to him that it was on him to stay up to date with our child's school stuff. I gave him 2 weeks to get everything sorted. I even listed all the important apps, websites, so he wouldn't miss anything. The only one I didn't share was a payment portal, as I knew he wouldn't care about that one. I promised to share any information passed via written notes, letters, etc., as he obviously would not have access to that otherwise. I followed through with it. It took him 2 months to realise what happened, and now he's furious, saying that I'm using the child against him. He got his family involved, and now they're all bombarding me with texts saying I'm the idiot for doing it to him and our child. His mother also pointed out she'd done everything herself and didn't involve her husband in the school stuff, so she knows it's not that hard and I'm being dramatic. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He's your ex, not your partner, so his mom's argument doesn't stand. You don't have to do the same just because she puts up with useless partners. Exactly what are you doing to him? You're not keeping him from any information. You're not locking him out. You gave him all the access he needed to find the information himself. The only thing you did was help him. Repeatedly. Send that to your ex-family and tell them to leave you alone or block them. If he can't be bothered to be involved, that's not on you. Also, as ex-mother-in-law pointed out, she handled it all herself and didn't involve her husband in it. Why should OP have to update her ex if mother-in-law didn't update her actual husband? If his mom thinks it's so easy, there's no reason he can't handle it himself. It's not fair to push something onto you just because he doesn't want to do it. Absolutely block his nosy, worthless family. The real kicker is OP mentioned he doesn't work. Assuming there's no disabling condition that would explain the lack of work, he literally doesn't want to be a normal, functioning adult. You'd think a parent who doesn't work would at least be super involved in their kid's life and school. We need not wonder why you're no longer together. I'm a single dad to a teen girl. We live in an area where we get a lot of snow every winter. Around the time she was a tween, I taught her how to shovel and we usually did it together. We have a decent-sized driveway and walkway. Sometimes I'll do the whole thing myself if it's too icy. Over the weekend we got some unexpected snow while I was at work. I called my daughter and asked that she shovel out a bit of the driveway so I'll have room to park and get out the next day, as well as shovel the walkway and steps. She said yes. When I came home, the entire driveway was shoveled and the walkway and steps were cleared perfectly. I thanked her and said she did a good job. She then told me that when she went out to shovel, she saw our neighbour, a couple of years older than her, shoveling his walkway. She offered him $40 of her own money to shovel for her and he accepted. I told her that I'd asked her to shovel, not the neighbour, and it was something assigned to her. She asked what the big deal was as it got done. She also pointed out that when she has her own house someday, she can easily just pay someone to do it so she doesn't have to do it. I told her she wasn't in trouble, but the next time it snowed, she was helping me shovel, and in the future, if I asked to do it, she was expected to do it. She seemed a little disappointed, but didn't argue. I talked to my mom about the situation, and she told me I completely overreacted, pointing out that my daughter has a point. The job got done, and it shouldn't matter how it gets done as long as it does. The neighbour kid willingly did it, which I confirmed with him later that he was happy to do it for the extra cash. My mom said I should have praised my daughter's initiative. So now I'm left wondering if I was the idiot for lecturing my daughter on this. Edit, she got the money from babysitting. She works for a different neighbour twice a week and is paid $18 an hour. We've constantly talked about money over the years, ever since she was old enough to receive birthday and Christmas money and decide how to spend it. She knows the value of the dollar, that once you spend money, it's gone, and that you should think before you buy. She says to her this was worth the $40. You are the idiot. She used her own money, a smart way to get what she wanted done. If she asked you for the money, then yeah, that's bad. But it's her money and she can use it however she likes. It's your job to feed and clothe her, and yet you spend money buying food at restaurants and buying pre-made clothes, right? How dare you? You are the idiot. You asked her to get the drive shoveled. She got it shoveled. Why does it matter that she followed your example by hiring someone to do unpleasant work as a teen rather than 25? Is this one of those, I had to do this when I was your age, so you have to suffer too, kinds of things? Let me guess, you're one of the men who thinks less of a woman for hiring someone to scrub the floors rather than do it herself. Update, I want to thank everyone who talked some sense into me. You all were right. It really doesn't matter how it gets done, as well as the fact that yes, there are times I contract out work of my own, so it's unfair to expect otherwise of her. One of my main priorities is that she's able to do things on her own. I won't always be around to help and I want her to be independent, but I realise now that this was her being independent and getting something done, just in a different way. I spoke with her and apologised for lecturing her. I also added I was proud of her for taking the initiative and explained why I reacted the way I did. Additionally, I thanked her for getting it done, regardless of how it was. She forgave me, and everything is good now. We have a 10-week-old baby. My husband, 28, absolutely adores him and wants to spend every available moment with him. I know he wants to be an amazing father. However, he engages in unsafe behaviours like falling asleep on the couch while the baby is contact napping, leaving the baby on the playmat unattended while the dog is in the room, or putting the baby for a day nap with his bib still on. Husband claims I'm too anxious and making a big deal out of nothing. Baby can't roll yet and the dog won't hurt him. He holds baby firmly while sleeping, etc. And I admit I don't react calmly and freak out, which makes him act defensive. But he is being unsafe and it stresses me out. I feel like I can't leave him alone with the baby, which only offends him more. Last week I had enough and asked my mother-in-law and sister-in-law to talk to him. They took my side and ripped him a new one. Now my husband is angry that I brought him into it and made a whole intervention like he's such a bad dad. Am I the idiot for insisting my husband change how he acts around the baby and involving his family? Not the idiot, your husband is the idiot. He is doing dangerous things. I'm sick of people not educating themselves on this and forcing you to do the labour of finding sources to teach him how to be a parent when you yourself are new to it too, and then he doesn't even listen to you. I would be livid. If he isn't willing to educate himself, he has to default to your knowledge. He doesn't get a say in any decisions if he's not knowledgeable about anything. I have a friend who laid their 4-week-old baby on the kitchen table. He rolled over, fell off the table and fractured his skull. Because of their negligence, CPS took the baby and they've been trying for 3 months to get him back. Do not allow your husband to put the baby at risk. His argument is that the baby can't roll yet. Sometimes the babies surprise the parents. No one wants that to be at a bad time. Everyone's the idiot here. Freaking out and screaming isn't going to help. Tell your husband sorry for screaming and involving his family, but you felt you didn't have a choice since you felt he wasn't hearing you and you feared for the baby's safety. Try to end it on a positive note and tell him all the things he does that you love and appreciate. Hope he can wake up and see it's about safety and not an attack on his character.